My wife left and I raised our daughters alone. Years later, she returned and her new husband wanted to adopt them. They said he was a better fit. I let them go. Now they want to come back, but I've moved on. My name is Bennett and I'm 54 now. This mess really started years ago. For nearly 30 years, I worked at the same manufacturing plant. Started at the bottom, a regular guy punching the clock. Over time, I climbed to a mid-level position. Nothing fancy, but it paid the bills. My wife, Abigail, left when our girls were young. Isabella was 10, Charlotte just 7. Abigail wasn't cut out for the quiet family life. I guess she needed something more. After she left, her visits were sporadic. Sometimes she'd show up all smiles with big promises. Other times we wouldn't hear from her for months. I remember one visit when Isabella was about 14. Abigail swore she'd be there for her school play, said she wouldn't miss it. We all waited, she never showed. Charlotte was in tears. I told the girls, she's got her own battles, but she loves you in her way. It still hurt that I raised them mostly alone. I wasn't perfect, far from it, but I was there. I wanted the girls to have a better life than mine, one with more options. My own upbringing was working class. Food on the table, a roof over our heads, but not much else. No fancy trips or expensive toys. I was determined my girls wouldn't settle for that. So I worked hard. My main job at the plant, side gigs, fixing things for neighbors, some consulting based on my plant experience. Some weeks I clocked 60, even 70 hours year after year. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. I sent the girls to a good private school, hired SAT tutors to prep them for college, and covered their tuition. Isabella even studied abroad in Spain for a semester, something I'd never dreamed of. When Charlotte needed help with her first car, I covered it without a second thought. We didn't live like rich folks, not by a long shot. My house is small, my truck's the same beat-up one I've driven for 15 years, my work pants more patches than original fabric. But the girls never lacked. They had what they needed to focus on school and have a somewhat normal childhood. A solid start. Things shifted when they hit their early 20s. Abigail started showing up more. She'd remarried a guy named Wesley who seemed successful, or at least acted like it. Owned his own business, wore expensive suits, drove a sleek car. Abigail was different with him, more polished, I suppose. Wesley made a point to get involved with Isabella and Charlotte. He secured Isabella an internship through some contacts and hooked Charlotte up with a local agency. At first I thought, fine, maybe this is good for them. More people looking out for them can't hurt, right? But then I noticed a change. The girls grew distant. Our calls got shorter. They were always busy, usually with something tied to Wesley and Abigail. They started talking about Wesley's big house, his connections. My small place, my quiet life, probably seemed dull in comparison. I remember planning a camping trip like we used to do when they were younger, just the three of us. Both canceled last minute. Isabella said Wesley was taking them to some event. Charlotte had a networking thing he'd set up. I wasn't blind to how much that stung. I told myself they're adults now making their own choices. But it was hard not to feel pushed out. Then the questions started, small at first, little comments about genetics, who they resembled. Apparently, Abigail had been filling their heads with stories. One night, Isabella called, sounding hesitant. She asked if I'd kept anything from them about their mom, about the time before the divorce. "What do you mean, Bella?" I asked. She said, "Mom told me she had an affair way back before you two split, and now she thinks someone else might be our biological father." I was floored. Abigail and I had our issues, plenty of them. But I never doubted for a second the girls were mine. According to Isabella, Wesley was in on these talks, suggesting that, for tax and estate planning reasons, he could legally adopt them as adults. It'd solidify his role in the family, their new family with Abigail. Isabella and Charlotte started using phrases I'd never heard from them, like modern family structure, and needing emotional closure about their true origins. Abigail, during our marriage, had a volatile temper. When things didn't go her way, she'd explode, yelling, throwing things. I remember when Isabella was about 5, Abigail promised to take her to a special puppet show, the kind a kid would never forget. The day before, a friend called Abigail with a last-minute weekend trip to the city. The puppet show was forgotten. When I brought up how disappointed Isabella would be, Abigail went into a rage, accusing me of holding her back, like I was the one standing in her way. I can still see it. Isabella, just a little girl, terrified, caught in the middle. That was Abigail, all drama and broken promises. Her reappearance now with Wesley felt like history repeating with a new twist. Before, she just vanished. Now she was trying to take them away. There was another time when the girls were teens. Abigail was supposed to take them school shopping. She showed up 3 hours late, smelling of wine, with only half the money she'd promised. Charlotte quietly asked, "Can I still get the shoes I want?" Abigail lost it, yelling about their ingratitude, how she was sacrificing so much just to see them. She threw the cash on the kitchen table and stormed out, leaving them in tears. I took them shopping the next day. That was the pattern: grand gestures, drama, disappointment. Wesley seemed to smooth her rough edges in public, but her entitled attitude was still there, and she was clearly using his money and status to lure the girls. The big confrontation came a few weeks after Isabella's call. They asked to meet, both of them. They sat on my old couch, Isabella speaking first, Charlotte staring at her hands. Isabella repeated Abigail's claim that she'd had an affair around the time Isabella was conceived, then another before Charlotte, and was almost certain I wasn't their biological father. "She's really torn up about it," Isabella said, "and wants to make things right." Then Charlotte spoke softly. "Wesley explained everything. If he adopts us, it simplifies inheritance. It's just a practical step for our financial security." Isabella nodded. "It's not personal, Dad." Then she twisted the knife. "Wesley fits our lives better now. Mom's happier, and things are looking up for us with his help." I didn't say much at first, just listened, my head spinning. After all those years, all the sacrifices, this was what mattered. Their mother, who barely raised them, and her rich new husband telling them I wasn't their dad, and them accepting it like it was no big deal. I stood, went to my old filing cabinet, it creaked as always, and pulled out a folder I hadn't touched in years. During the divorce, Abigail tried claiming I wasn't Isabella's father, likely to dodge something or stir trouble. We'd done paternity tests for both girls, a legal requirement for custody papers. I laid the official documents on the table. "From the divorce," I said, my voice steady but heavy. "Paternity tests, legally verified. You're both my daughters." Isabella picked up the top sheet, glanced at it, and set it down. Charlotte didn't even look. "Mom said those old tests might not be accurate," Isabella said flatly. "Things are more advanced now." Charlotte added softly, "Wesley said he'd pay for new tests if we want, but he also said, what's the point? It's about who steps up, right? He's stepping up for us now." The indifference in their eyes was the worst part. It wasn't about truth anymore. It was about what they wanted to be true, what was convenient, what Abigail and Wesley were selling. They didn't argue about the papers, just dismissed them like they were nothing. Their minds were made up, or made up for them. Isabella even said, "Look, Dad, we appreciate everything you did growing up, but we're adults now. We need to think about our future. Mom and Wesley are offering a different kind of future." I sat there a long time after their speech. They fidgeted on the couch, expecting me to argue, to beg. I didn't. I felt empty, like something inside had quietly switched off. I gathered the paternity papers, folded them back into their envelope. No yelling, no drama. What was the point? They'd made their choice. I looked at my daughters, the girls I'd changed diapers for, taught to ride bikes, stayed up with when they were sick, worked my fingers raw for, and I acted. The next day I made calls. First, I cut off all financial support. The small allowance I still sent Charlotte for supplies, the rent top-up for Isabella in the city, gone. I called my insurance company and removed them from my health plan. They were adults now, they could handle it. Then Charlotte's car, the one I'd co-signed the loan for. I contacted the bank and revoked my co-signature. It took work, but it was doable. They'd need to refinance or get Wesley to co-sign. I'd set up small emergency savings accounts for them years ago, putting in a bit each month for a rainy day. I closed those and moved the money to my savings. Then I sent them both the same text, polite and clear. I've received your decision about your family and future. As you no longer consider me your father, I will no longer provide for your adult lives. I wish you the best. I blocked their numbers for a while after that. I needed space that I didn't hear from them directly. They were probably busy building their new lives with Wesley and Abigail. Months passed and I unblocked their numbers. During that time, their silence was total. I went to work, came home, got used to the quiet. It wasn't easy. Every corner of the house held a memory, but I kept moving forward. Then, slowly, things changed, not for me but for them. I heard bits indirectly. Wesley's business took a hit, a deal fell through. His important connections that were supposed to launch Isabella's career post-internship didn't pan out. Her internship ended with no full-time offer. Charlotte's agency, the one Wesley got her into, lost its biggest client. Her hours were cut, then cut again. Abigail and Wesley, it seems, started pulling back, emotionally and, more importantly for the girls, financially. Their different future wasn't so bright anymore. Then the calls and messages started about 6 months after my text. Small at first. Charlotte, hey Dad, just checking in. Hope you're okay. No apology, no mention of anything, just a probe. A week later, Isabella left a voicemail. Hey Dad, it's me. Just thinking of you. Call me if you want. I didn't respond to either. What was there to say? They were reaching out after everything they'd said, everything they'd done. Choosing Wesley and Abigail, saying I wasn't their father, that Wesley fit better. Now that Wesley's money was drying up, they were back. You might wonder why the girls were so quick to believe Abigail or go along with her plan. It's complicated. Abigail has a way of making people believe her, especially when she's emotional. In a full meltdown, she's incredibly convincing, twisting facts, playing the victim, making grand accusations. She's always been entitled. If she wants something, she believes she deserves it, no matter the cost to others. Wesley, with his apparent wealth and success, was her shiny new toy, and the girls were part of her perfect new life. She likely painted me as the dull, stuck past and Wesley as the exciting future. Was Wesley outright malicious? I don't think he was a cackling villain, but he was an enabler. The adoption talk was probably framed as generosity, a way to care for Isabella and Charlotte. He likely didn't think past the superficial appeal and underestimated how much I did for them and what it had cost him to step up. His paternity and tax benefit talk was meant to sound logical, practical, helping Abigail sell the narrative of upgrading their family. Did the girls show remorse before things soured with Wesley? No, not a hint. Their early messages were casual, like nothing significant had happened, testing the waters. No sorry, no we messed up, just a cold hey Dad. That told me everything. A week ago, they showed up unannounced on a Saturday morning. The doorbell rang. Both of them looking worn out. Isabella's eyes were red. Charlotte looked like she hadn't slept in days. Seeing them at my door, battered by life catching up, I made a choice. I'd hear them out. When Isabella asked, Dad, can we talk? I didn't answer right away. I just looked at them. Isabella stared at the floor. Charlotte bit her lower lip, like she used to before dentist appointments as a kid. After a moment I said, okay, come in. You've got 10 minutes. That surprised them. Maybe they expected me to slam the door or break down. I turned and walked back inside. They followed to the living room, the same room where they'd told me Wesley was a better fit. I didn't offer them a seat. I stood. They stood awkwardly like kids facing the principal. Isabella started, Dad, we messed up so badly. Charlotte nodded, eyes already glistening. We were so stupid, she whispered. Isabella went on, Mom was so convincing and Wesley made it sound like this amazing new life was waiting. I think I wanted to believe it, Dad. I wanted to believe things could be easy, exciting, a fresh start. She looked at me, searching my face. That was it? A fresh start from my real life, from you? Charlotte's voice cracked next. I just wanted to feel part of something successful. Wesley seemed so successful. Mom was so happy. I thought, her voice shook. I thought maybe this was my chance to have that. Tears slid down her face. No theatrics, just tears. We didn't realize what we were throwing away, she said. Not really. They talked more, mostly excuses. How Abigail pressured them, how Wesley made promises, how they felt swept up. And how things with Abigail and Wesley were awful now. Abigail was making their lives hell, blaming them for not being grateful enough. With Wesley's money drying up, he was pulling away, indifferent to their struggles. Their bright future had faded fast that I didn't interrupt. I didn't offer Charlotte a tissue or put a hand on Isabella's shoulder. I just listened, my face, I imagined, showing nothing. When they finished, they looked at me, hopeful, scared, waiting for something, maybe forgiveness, maybe a crack in my armor. I took a slow breath and spoke, calm and even. Let me see if I've got this. Your mother, who abandoned you and broke promises your whole childhood, told you I wasn't your father. Her new husband, a man you barely knew, offered to adopt you to save on taxes and make their new family look complete. And you two, my educated adult daughters, decided this was a good plan. They flinched like my words had struck them. I wasn't trying to be cruel, but I wasn't here to coddle them either. That I continued, voice steady. You wanted a fresh start, Isabella? From what? From the father who worked 70 hours a week to give you everything. She didn't answer, just stood there, eyes red, mouth trembling. I turned to Charlotte. You wanted to be part of something successful? My life, my sacrifices for you weren't successful in your eyes. Charlotte's shoulders shook as she cried openly. No, Dad, it's not that. We didn't mean, I cut her off, still calm but sharp. What did you mean when you looked at legal proof of your paternity and dismissed it? What did you mean, Isabella, when you said Wesley fit your lives better? You were clear then. Dad, please, Isabella pleaded. We know we were wrong. We're so sorry. Sorry's not a magic word, I said. Not for those choices, your choices. You chose them. You chose their story, their practical reasons, over decades of your real life with me. Both were crying now. I paused, letting the moment's weight settle like dust in the silence. You stood in this room, I said, gesturing around, and unambiguously disowned me as your father. Neither spoke, they couldn't. You came here today because your new, better life fell apart, I said. Because Wesley's money's gone, and your mother's being herself again. You didn't come when you thought Wesley was your ticket to Easy Street. You came because their safety net broke and you expect your old one, me, to still be here. I looked at them, really looked. Isabella's face was pale and streaked. Charlotte's mascara ran. Their tears didn't move me. Here's my decision, I said, voice low but firm. You were right, you threw something away. Our relationship. My trust. Any obligation I had as your father, because you chose to believe I wasn't. I stepped forward. When you walked out after that talk, you became, for all intents and purposes, Abigail's daughters, Wesley's stepdaughters, not mine. Silence, just their quiet sobs. Your 10 minutes are up. There's nothing for you here, not my time, my money, my help. Nothing. I pointed to the door. Go back to Abigail and Wesley. You chose them. Live with that choice. Don't contact me again. We're done. Isabella stared like I'd slapped her. Dad, you can't mean that. We're your daughters. No, Isabella, I said. You made that clear you're not. I have documents proving you're biologically mine, but you rejected that. You rejected me. So no, you're not my daughters. Not in any way that matters anymore. Charlotte stood trembling, tears streaming, unable to speak. Isabella opened her mouth, then closed it. She must have seen something final in my face because she didn't argue. She gently took Charlotte's arm and led her to the door. I didn't stop them or say another word. I watched them walk to Charlotte's car, the one I used to help pay for, and drive away. I closed the door. No sadness, no rage, just stillness like a storm had passed and the air was clear, clean. My words were harsh, I know, but they were my truth. They'd burned the bridge long before they came crawling back. I just confirmed it was gone, nothing left to save. A year later, life's different. I haven't heard a word from Isabella or Charlotte. No calls, texts, or forwarded emails. They took my words seriously, or maybe Abigail and Wesley have them on a tighter leash. Maybe they found another angle, another fix for their crumbling lives. I don't know. I haven't asked or looked into it. Some might call that cold, but I spent over 2 decades putting them first. Every extra shift, skipped vacation, postponed personal purchase, every night dragging my tired body home to help with homework or fix a last-minute school project. Every choice was for them. When they had the chance to show loyalty, to stand by the man who raised them, they didn't hesitate to believe the worst, chase a fantasy, and discard me like outdated furniture that didn't match their new aesthetic. The well of paternal love I had for them dried up the day they looked at those paternity papers and treated me like a stranger. What I said in our last meeting wasn't from anger, it was giving voice to what they'd already done. They left long before I told them to go. These days my life is simple. I get up, go to the plant, wear my patched jeans, live in my small house with creaky floors and an unpainted porch. There's calm here, peace. No drama, no unexpected calls for tuition or down payments, no dipping into emergency funds, no wondering if they're okay only to get silence or demands. That cycle's over. As for Abigail and Wesley, I don't know what's happened. I don't ask and no one tells me. They live in another city now, our lives don't cross. Abigail's probably still Abigail. People like her don't change. Wesley likely learned the hard way that bailing her out and trying to buy a ready-made family isn't as easy as he thought. That's it, I guess. The end of the story. No dramatic finale, no surprise redemption arc. They're gone from my life and I'm moving on with mine. I'm doing okay. Thanks to those who listened, who offered kind words. It helped, really, to know I wasn't just shouting into the void.